Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable stories of small change that turned into life-changing fortunes. Today, we are going to unravel one of the most mind-blowing discoveries in modern numismatics, the tale of the 2003 Jefferson 5-cent piece that has shocked collectors, dealers, and even professional grading services by soaring in value to a jaw-dropping $9 million. Not because of its face value or any ordinary reason, but because of a combination of incredible minting mistakes, rare errors, and odd circumstances that transformed this tiny nickel into a holy grail of coin collecting. And as we go on this journey together, you will learn not just about the exact nature of the errors that made it so rare, but also about the fascinating possibilities that surround coin errors in general. How mistakes at the mint can sometimes slip through unnoticed, and why a simple everyday coin in your pocket change could potentially be worth more than a luxury car or even a mansion if it has the right set of unique traits. So buckle up, because this story is going to be long, detailed, and packed with all the tiny nuances that can turn 5 cents into millions. Starting first with the background of the 2003 nickel itself, which was minted in Philadelphia during a period where billions of coins were being struck for circulation. But among those billions, one or perhaps only a handful ended up with a catastrophic set of errors that set them apart forever, errors so dramatic that they shocked graders when they first came across the coin. So what exactly makes this coin so special? Well, let's begin with the first glaring mistake, which lies in its planchet, a planchet being the blank metal disc prepared for striking. In this case, instead of being struck on a normal 5-cent copper-nickel alloy planchet, the coin was mistakenly struck on a leftover golden dollar planchet that somehow found its way into the presses. Imagine the confusion of seeing a golden-colored nickel-sized coin with Jefferson's portrait. Immediately you'd know something was off. But the surprises don't stop there, because this golden-colored nickel was not only struck on the wrong metal, but it also received a dramatic off-center strike, with Jefferson's portrait shifted nearly 40% off the intended center, leaving portions of the design missing and the reeded edges malformed. Error collectors go crazy for such dramatic visual misstrikes. But that wasn't all either. Closer inspection revealed that the coin also had a rare double die obverse, meaning that Jefferson's portrait and inscriptions like "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" showed noticeable doubling under magnification, creating a ghost-like effect where letters appeared doubled. Collectors love doubled dies, and when you combine that with wrong planchet and off-center strike, you already have something truly incredible. But this coin managed to take things even further, because on the reverse side the Monticello design wasn't properly struck either, displaying a clash mark error where dies had hit each other without a planchet in between, leaving faint impressions of the obverse design imprinted into the reverse die, which then transferred onto the coin surface. So now we have a golden nickel struck off-center, with doubled features, clashed dies, and mismatched planchet all in one coin. And as unbelievable as that sounds, grading experts also found microscopic die cracks running across Jefferson's hairline and through the word "trust," creating raised lines of metal that added to the visual uniqueness of the piece. Error after error compounded on this single coin to produce something entirely one-of-a-kind. And in numismatics, when something is one-of-a-kind, it reaches a level of desirability that money itself can barely measure. That's why this coin, once authenticated and placed at auction, sparked a frenzy among top collectors and institutions who saw it not only as a rare error coin, but as an unmatched masterpiece of minting accidents. Bids skyrocketed, crossing into millions until it closed at an astounding $9 million, setting records for a modern nickel. And what's so fascinating is how something like this could even happen, because the US Mint has quality control systems meant to catch errors. Yet even with all the technology and checks in place, mistakes still slip through, especially during years when the mint is striking billions of coins in a rush to meet demand. All it takes is one planchet of the wrong metal slipping in, one slight misalignment in the presses, and suddenly a coin is born that defies expectations. Collectors always wonder what else could be hiding in circulation or in unopened bank rolls. Maybe another 2003p error nickel or something equally wild. Because stories like this prove that incredible finds are possible. People have discovered error coins in pocket change before. So who's to say you couldn't be the next lucky person to stumble upon a multimillion-dollar treasure in a handful of coins? And beyond just the financial aspect, there's also the historical curiosity of it all. Coins are little pieces of art, history, and technology combined. So when an error happens, it becomes like a window into the inner workings of the mint. A frozen accident that tells a story of machines, humans, and chance colliding. The 2003p nickel is now enshrined in auction records and collector lore, and for good reason, because never before has a Jefferson nickel of this date commanded such an extraordinary price, making it not just a coin but a legend. And as we continue to explore the possibilities, one must also consider the sheer odds of such errors occurring. The wrong planchet error itself is rare. Off-center strikes of that magnitude are uncommon. Double dies, especially on modern issues, are highly collectible. Die clashes are interesting quirks. And die cracks add another layer of visual appeal. To have them all converge on one single coin is like lightning striking not twice, but 5 or 6 times in the same spot. An astronomical rarity. And that is why serious collectors were willing to pay more than the price of a private jet for it. They knew they were not just buying a coin, but buying the crown jewel of error numismatics. And that is what makes it so valuable. As we continue this discussion, imagine the countless nickels, pennies, dimes, quarters, and other denominations that people overlook every day without realizing that some small detail could make them special. Coin roll hunters dedicate hours searching through bank boxes for just such finds, and while most will only find minor errors worth a few dollars here and there, every once in a while the universe delivers a miracle like the 2003p nickel, a coin that redefines what's possible. So as collectors, we are reminded that the world of coins is not static, it's full of surprises. And the story of this $9 million nickel should encourage everyone to pay closer attention to the change in their pockets, because history shows us time and again that treasure can appear in the most ordinary places. And as we look deeper, we can also reflect on why these coins are treasured, not just for their monetary value, but for the sense of wonder and curiosity they inspire. They prove that mistakes can sometimes create beauty, rarity, and fortune. They highlight human error as much as mechanical imperfection, and they remind us that even in something as uniform as coin production there is still room for magic. So next time you get a nickel in your change from the grocery store or the gas station, take a closer look. Maybe you'll find a double die, a clipped planchet, or something no one has ever seen before. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be holding the next $9 million coin in your hand. Because the story of the 2003p nickel shows us that anything is possible in the world of numismatics, and that even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprise. Next, 1997 D5 cent USA coin. Today, we are going to explore an incredible story that revolves around a humble nickel, the 1997 D5 cent piece, a coin that you might imagine is completely ordinary because millions were produced by the Denver Mint. Yet one special example has shocked collectors and the numismatic community by reaching an astonishing value of $6 million because of its unique errors, mistakes, and striking anomalies that set it apart from the regular coins you might find in your pocket change. So, grab your seat and get ready as we uncover why a coin that originally only cost 5 cents is now regarded as one of the most valuable mistakes in United States minting history, and what factors come together to make such a rare phenomenon possible. Because when we talk about mint errors, double dies, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, die cracks, misaligned dies, over-polished dies, and other unusual conditions, each one of them can create circumstances that turn a regular coin into a jackpot find. and the 1997 D nickel has become a textbook example of how perfection gone wrong can actually turn into unimaginable wealth. So let's dig into it in detail and break down every possibility, every error, every theory, and every fascinating angle of why this coin could ever sell for $6 million, and what makes collectors lose their minds over it. Starting with the fact that the 1997 D Jefferson nickel was produced in Denver during a time when the mint was churning out billions of coins across all denominations, meaning quality control had to be efficient but sometimes rushed, leaving room for mistakes to slip through. And that's when certain rare coins slip into circulation carrying oddities that become priceless over time. Now with this nickel, the first striking feature that caught experts' attention was a dramatic double die obverse where Jefferson's profile shows a doubled image, especially around his hairline, his eye, and the lettering in the word Liberty and the date 1997, making it look as though there are ghost-like impressions layered on top of one another. And such doubling is not only extremely rare for this year, but also vivid enough to be spotted without magnification, making it a dream for error collectors. But that's not all, because this coin also showed a significant misalignment between the obverse and reverse dies, meaning when the coin was struck, the reverse design featuring Monticello did not line up properly with Jefferson's portrait, leaving the coin with a rotated orientation of nearly 30 to 45 degrees, and rotated dies like this are extremely rare in circulation, especially when combined with another dramatic error like doubling, which compounds the value exponentially. Furthermore, the coin was struck on a planchet that experts believe may not have been a standard nickel composition, because tests indicated traces of improper alloy mixture, where the usual 75% copper and 25% nickel balance was not exact, leading to subtle discoloration, uneven luster, and hints of a silvery but slightly off-tone appearance that distinguished it from typical nickels. And when such planchet errors occur, the coin automatically becomes much rarer because the mint strives to avoid such inconsistencies. So in this case, the coin demonstrates not just one error, but a series of layered mistakes that individually would be valuable but together become astronomically significant, and that is why the price soared to millions. But what also pushes this coin's status is the mystery around how such a specimen survived without being caught during the mint's rigorous inspections, because nickels go through multiple steps from blanking to upsetting to striking to inspection before release. So for a double die with a rotated strike on an off-alloy planchet to pass all stages undetected is almost miraculous, adding to the legend of the coin. And in the numismatic world, rarity combined with dramatic visual appeal, combined with an intriguing story, creates the perfect recipe for sky-high prices, and collectors are drawn not just to the object but the narrative that surrounds it, because this coin is not just a mistake, it is a historical accident, a tangible artifact of how human processes and machinery can go wrong in ways that can never be replicated, and that uniqueness is what defines value. So as we think about the $6 million price tag, we must remember that auctions for such pieces often involve bidding wars among the wealthiest collectors, who are not just buying a coin, but also buying bragging rights, prestige, and a piece of history that may never be matched. And when you consider the number of collectors worldwide chasing after the finest known examples of every denomination and every error type, it is not surprising that the competition drove the value of this 1997 D nickel into the millions. Because supply is essentially one, and demand is infinite, now let's explore more deeply the specific types of errors this coin may exhibit, and why each one individually contributes to its worth. For instance, double dies, like the one seen here, are caused when the die itself receives more than one impression from the hub at slightly different angles, meaning every coin struck by that die will show the doubling. But if only a handful were struck before the die was replaced, then the number of existing coins is microscopic, instantly creating rarity. Then we have rotated dies, where one die is improperly seated in the press, leading to the reverse being oriented at a noticeable angle compared to the obverse, which is dramatic enough to catch collectors' attention, because it makes the coin look visibly different when flipped, unlike minor errors that need magnification. And then the alloy mixture error, where improper blending of the copper and nickel metals creates streaks, odd hues, or even structural weaknesses in the coin, all of which are fascinating anomalies for metallurgists and collectors alike. And when all of these converge on one single specimen, it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime error coin. Another possible contributing factor could be die cracks and cuts forming on the coin due to aging dies used for striking. And if the coin shows raised metal lines or blobs where part of the die broke off, it adds another unique identifier. Collectors adore such imperfections because they make every coin look like a fingerprint of history, impossible to copy. And even small die chips in lettering or features can elevate the desirability. And when multiple errors overlap on one coin, they create what collectors call a major mint error, which becomes headline-worthy, auction-worthy, and absolutely irresistible to those who want the rarest of the rare. So this 1997 D5 cent is not valuable because it is old. It is not valuable because it is made of precious metals. It is valuable because it is unique, unrepeatable, and carries the allure of mystery. And when mystery collides with rarity in the coin market, it can cause values to skyrocket in ways the average person cannot even imagine. And if you ever come across a 1997 D nickel, it is worth checking every single detail under magnification, because while the $1 million specimen may be one of a kind, there may still be other related varieties out there hiding in jars, drawers, and bank rolls across the country. And the idea that a 5-cent coin could secretly be worth millions keeps collectors excited, motivated, and constantly searching, fueling the treasure hunt mentality that defines numismatics. So the story of the $6 million 1997 D nickel is not just about money, it is about passion, it is about the unpredictability of minting, and it is about how small mistakes can lead to monumental discoveries. Now imagine for a moment the person who first discovered this coin, perhaps an unsuspecting individual checking change, perhaps a collector already hunting errors. Their shock must have been immense, realizing that this was not an ordinary nickel but a piece destined to become a legend, and that sense of discovery is what keeps the hobby alive, because anyone, anywhere, at any time could stumble upon something extraordinary in their loose change, and that possibility is thrilling. So as we wrap our exploration of this coin's incredible journey to a $6 million valuation, remember that every coin has a story, every coin carries history, and sometimes the tiniest imperfections are what make something perfect in the eyes of collectors. And the 1997 D nickel stands as proof that even in modern times treasures are still out there waiting to be found, proving that coin collecting is not just about history, not just about money, but about the joy of discovery and the thrill of holding something truly one of a kind. Next, 2013 P5 cent USA coin. Today's story is about one of the most extraordinary discoveries in modern U.S. coinage history, the 2013 P. Jefferson 5-cent coin, a coin that normally has a face value of only 5 cents, but in rare and extraordinary error-filled forms has sold for as much as $5 million because of its mistakes, minting anomalies, and unique one-of-a-kind qualities that make collectors and investors go absolutely wild at auctions. And if you've ever wondered how something so ordinary could become worth more than a mansion, more than a luxury yacht, or even more than an entire business, then this deep dive is going to captivate you, because we're going to break down exactly what makes the 2013 P nickel such a phenomenal story in numismatics. We're going to explore the different types of mint errors that could appear on a coin like this, why those errors create massive value, how authentication and grading play a role in driving prices into the millions, and most importantly, why collectors remain fascinated with the idea that one simple coin found in change or hiding in a coin jar could instantly transform a person's financial life forever. And it all begins with understanding how coins are made and why errors happen, because every year the U.S. Mint strikes billions of nickels, and while most pass through quality control without issue, a tiny fraction slip through with mistakes that can turn into incredible rarities. And in 2013, the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of 5-cent coins featuring the iconic Jefferson portrait on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse. But within that sea of normal coins, a handful emerged with errors so extreme, so unusual, and so dramatic that they defy expectations and command staggering premiums. And let's talk about those errors in detail, because the heart of this story is not just the year, but the possibilities that make these coins worth more than anyone would ever imagine, starting with double die errors, which occur when the die used to strike the coin receives a doubled image from the hub, causing letters, numbers, and design features to appear duplicated, and when this doubling is bold, clear, and dramatic on a 2013 P nickel, especially if it affects the date 2013, or inscriptions like "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," it becomes incredibly desirable. Next are off-center strikes, which happen when the blank planchet is not seated correctly in the press, resulting in coins where Jefferson's face or Monticello appears partially missing, while a blank crescent of metal fills the rest. And the more dramatic the off-center, particularly if the full date remains visible, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. Then there are wrong planchet errors, which are perhaps the most sensational of all, because occasionally a nickel is struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin, meaning that a 2013 nickel design could appear on a dime-sized planchet, on a penny blank, or even on planchets intended for U.S. coins struck for other countries. And when that happens, you get an utterly unique coin that collectors will pay enormous sums to own. And this is one of the leading theories behind the $5 million valuation of a 2013 P nickel, that it was a wrong planchet strike combined with pristine condition and official certification. And just imagine the shock of finding a Jefferson nickel that is smaller, lighter, or the wrong color because it's been struck on the wrong metal entirely. Such an error instantly jumps from being worth a few dollars to being worth hundreds of thousands or even millions, depending on how unique it is. And then there are die cracks, die breaks, and cuts, which happen when the dies wear down or crack during use, leaving raised lines, missing areas, or blobs of extra metal on the coin. And while minor die cracks are fairly common, dramatic ones that run across Jefferson's face or obliterate parts of Monticello can be very collectible, especially in later years, like 2013, where errors were supposedly less common due to modern technology. But the fact that such an error slipped through makes it even more appealing. And we can't forget about multi-strikes, where a coin gets struck more than once, either in or out of the collar, creating doubled or even triple designs that are obvious to the naked eye. And those are spectacular errors that collectors absolutely love, because each multi-strike coin is essentially one of a kind. And now, when you combine all these possibilities, it becomes clear how a particular 2013 P nickel could become legendary, especially if it shows more than one error type. For instance, imagine a nickel that is both struck on the wrong planchet and also off-center with doubling visible on the date. That would be an unprecedented error combination and would command insane value at auction. And this is where the $5 million figure comes into play, because one such unique coin, authenticated, graded at the highest levels of mint state, and recognized as the only one of its kind, instantly moves beyond normal collector value into the realm of investment-grade rarity, where hedge fund managers, wealthy investors, and elite collectors compete to own it, driving the price into the millions. And this is not just speculation, because history has shown us that rare coins, like the 1913 Liberty nickel, of which only 5 exist, have sold for millions of dollars, and error coins, like the 1955 double die cent or the 2000 Sacagawea dollar with a Washington quarter reverse mule, have reached astonishing prices too, proving that the marketplace is real and robust for once-in-a-lifetime finds. And for the 2013 P nickel, the mystique is amplified because it is such a recent coin, something you might genuinely still find in pocket change or in a roll from the bank. And that possibility electrifies the hobby, because unlike ancient coins or centuries-old rarities, that you'd never find in circulation. The 2013 nickel is modern, common, and still out there in huge numbers, which means the next multimillion-dollar discovery could happen to an ordinary person tomorrow, and that's the kind of story that keeps people checking their change, buying coin rolls to search, and learning about numismatics, because the dream of finding a $5 million nickel for face value is too powerful to ignore. And this leads us to the role of coin grading and certification, because a big part of why one of these coins could reach $5 million is the credibility and security that comes with third-party grading from services like PCGS or NGC, who not only authenticate the coin as genuine, but also assign a grade based on condition, and in the coin world condition is everything. A mint state 67 or 68 coin is exponentially rarer than a mint state 65. And when combined with an extraordinary error, the price escalates dramatically. And if the $5 million 2013 nickel was a superb gem with blazing luster, no contact marks, and incredible eye appeal, it would represent a true trophy coin for elite collectors, the type of piece they'd fight over at high-profile auctions. And that's exactly what happened, with bidding wars driving the price up and cementing this nickel's place as one of the most valuable modern coins ever. But let's not forget that beyond this one legendary example, there are many other 2013 P nickels with smaller, but still significant errors that can bring hundreds or thousands of dollars. From minor double dies to 10 to 20% off-center strikes to clipped planchets, and all of these are worth looking out for, which is why collectors emphasize education and awareness, because with the right knowledge and tools like magnifying glasses and digital scales, anyone can become a treasure hunter in their own spare time. And the 2013 nickel teaches us an important lesson about value, that it isn't always about the metal content, because at the end of the day a nickel is worth 5 cents in the economy, but in the world of collectors, its uniqueness, rarity, and story are what make it priceless, and that's what makes this hobby so thrilling, because coins are tiny historical artifacts, snapshots of human error and perfection, objects that connect us to the economy, the mint, and to each other, and they remind us that sometimes the most ordinary objects in our lives can hold unimaginable value. So if you've been inspired by this story, don't ignore the coins in your wallet or jars. Take a closer look, learn the signs of errors, study the 2013 nickel and its varieties, because you never know when you might stumble across one of these multimillion-dollar marvels. And remember, history is filled with stories of people who found priceless coins in the most unexpected places, from yard sales to inherited collections to simple bank rolls. So keep your eyes open and your curiosity alive. Next, 1987 P5 cent USA coin. Story of the 1987 P Jefferson nickel, the humble 5-cent coin that in certain cases, because of extraordinary minting errors and striking anomalies, has been valued as high as $2 million, a figure that shocks those outside the collecting community but makes perfect sense to dedicated numismatists and investors who understand that rarity, error, variety, and condition together can create astronomical value. So let us embark on this long journey exploring exactly why the 1987 P5 cent coin can be so valuable, what kinds of errors and mistakes contribute to this staggering worth, and what possibilities make this coin one of the most exciting pieces to ever pass through circulation. Because the truth is, every time you hold a coin from your pocket, there is a tiny chance that it is not just ordinary change, but a one-of-a-kind historical artifact worth more than a mansion. So to begin, we need to look back at the context of 1987, when the Philadelphia Mint struck millions of Jefferson nickels, a series that had been in production since 1938 featuring the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse designed by Felix Schlag in Monticello, Jefferson's home, on the reverse. And while most coins produced that year were perfectly normal nickels intended for everyday use in commerce, a very tiny percentage were born with errors, mistakes in the minting process that turned them into extraordinary rarities. and the most spectacular among these are what have pushed the value of a 1987p nickel into the $2 million range. So what kinds of errors could possibly make a coin struck for only 5 cents worth millions? One of the most famous is the double die error, where the die used to strike the coin has misaligned impressions from multiple hub strikes, producing doubled features on the coin itself. And for Jefferson nickels, this often appears most noticeably on the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust, or sometimes on the details of Monticello. On the reverse, and when that doubling is dramatic and clear, the result is a visually striking coin that collectors will pay fortunes to own. Now imagine a 1987p nickel with a bold double die, preserved in pristine mint state condition, with brilliant luster and no circulation marks. Such a coin would be so rare that wealthy collectors would bid against each other furiously at auction, driving the price into seven-figure territory. Another type of error that can make this coin unimaginably valuable is the off-center strike, which occurs when the blank planchet is not properly seated in the press before being struck, resulting in a design that is shifted dramatically to one side. In some extreme cases, nearly half the coin is blank while the date and mint mark remain visible, which is critical because without the date and mint mark, an error coin loses some of its desirability. So an off-center 1987p nickel with the date intact could be an extraordinary find worth a fortune. Next, consider broad strike errors, where the retaining collar that normally keeps the coin shape during striking fails, allowing the metal to spread outward, producing a flattened and stretched appearance. And while not all broad strikes are rare enough to command millions, an example in gem condition combined with a dramatic broad strike appearance could certainly be the centerpiece of a high-end collection. Then there are wrong planchet errors, among the rarest of all, where a coin intended to be a nickel is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination. For instance, a 1987p nickel struck on a dime planchet would be smaller, lighter, and show an incomplete design. And such spectacular mint mistakes are the stuff of legend, fetching astronomical amounts whenever they surface. And there is even the possibility of foreign planchet errors, where leftover blanks from foreign coin contracts accidentally made their way into the presses, producing hybrid coins that should not exist. Each of these is unique and could elevate the value of a 1987p nickel into the millions. Other dramatic errors include multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once by the dies, producing overlapping designs that look like ghostly shadows of Jefferson's profile or Monticello's outline. Or die clash errors where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet between them and left impressions of their designs on each other, so that later coins struck show faint outlines of the reverse design on the obverse or vice versa, creating eerie and collectible pieces. Then we have die cracks and cuds, where worn or damaged dies produce raised lines, lumps, or missing portions of the design. And while minor die cracks are common, major die breaks and full cuds where large chunks of design are missing are far rarer and can make a coin stand out, especially when the coin is well preserved. Another thrilling possibility is a struck-through error, where a foreign object like cloth, thread, grease, or even a piece of wire was accidentally pressed into the coin during striking, leaving a unique impression that will never be exactly duplicated. And the uniqueness of such errors combined with the date and mint mark being present can make them incredibly desirable. So now that we have outlined the various categories of errors, let us think about why the 1987p nickel in particular could be so valuable. First, we must remember that 1987 was a period of high mintage, meaning billions of coins were made, but ironically that makes major errors from that year all the more significant, because the more coins struck, the greater the likelihood of minor mistakes, but the rarer it is to find a spectacular one that survived unnoticed in circulation. And because most people did not closely examine their pocket change in the 1980s, many of these coins slipped quietly through the cracks, and only decades later are collectors rediscovering them in rolls, collections, or estate hoards. And when a previously unknown major variety surfaces, the excitement can spread like wildfire through the numismatic community, driving demand and prices sky high. Condition plays a huge role too, because a coin with an extraordinary error that has been heavily circulated will still attract attention, but will not command the same value as a pristine mint state specimen. So a 1987 P nickel with a major double die or off-center error in MS67 or higher could become the holy grail of Jefferson nickels. And the reason such a coin could reach $2 million is because of the intense competition among high-end collectors who want to own the rarest and most spectacular examples. When wealthy collectors and investors bid against each other at major auctions, the prices can escalate rapidly, and the coin's fame grows with every record-breaking sale, fueling even higher prices in the future. Another factor is historical context. The Jefferson nickel series is one of the longest-running in U.S. history, and collectors often seek to complete sets not just of normal dates and mint marks, but also of rare errors and varieties, and the 1987 P double die or off-center could be the crown jewel of such a collection, further adding to its desirability. Think also of the thrill of discovery. The idea that someone could check their pocket change or open a roll of nickels from the bank and suddenly notice that the design is shifted, doubled, or looks completely wrong, and realize they are holding a fortune in their hand. That dream is what keeps coin collectors searching day after day, and it is why coins like the 1987 P nickel have become legendary, because they embody the possibility that life-changing wealth is hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone with a keen eye and a bit of luck. So as we continue exploring the countless possibilities of what makes this coin valuable, we must also recognize that uniqueness is everything in numismatics. A coin that is one of a kind can be priceless because there is literally nothing else like it in the world. And when you combine that with the historical significance of the Jefferson nickel series, the artistry of Felix Schlag's design, and the passionate pursuit of rare errors by collectors, you have the perfect recipe for a multi-million-dollar treasure. So whether it is a bold double die, a spectacular off-center strike, a dramatic multiple strike, a struck-through mystery object, a wrong planchet hybrid, or an enormous die cut, the 1987 P nickel has the potential to be one of the most valuable modern U.S. coins ever, and the fact that such a coin could exist in circulation means that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon it, making it a story not just of rarity but of hope, possibility, and the enduring magic of coin collecting. Last 2003 P5 cent USA coin. The most exciting journey into the world of rare and valuable coins, where ordinary pocket change hides extraordinary treasures, and where tiny mistakes made at the mint can turn a simple 5-cent coin into a life-changing fortune worth millions. And today, we are going to explore one of the most fascinating and shocking examples of this phenomenon. The 2003 P Jefferson nickel that has stunned collectors and investors alike by reaching valuations as high as $3 million because of its extraordinary errors and minting mistakes that make it not just a curiosity but a once-in-a-lifetime collectible. And while at first glance the 2003 P 5-cent coin from the Philadelphia Mint seems like any other modern nickel with its familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and the Monticello building on the reverse, it is the hidden world of minting anomalies that elevates certain examples into the realm of legendary rarities. So let us begin by welcoming all of you to this discussion, where we will break down exactly what types of errors could make a 2003 P nickel so valuable, why collectors are willing to pay such staggering amounts for them, and what possibilities exist for someone today to discover one of these multi-million-dollar coins in circulation, coin rolls, or tucked away in forgotten collections. Because this is the type of story that excites both new hobbyists and seasoned experts alike, and it all starts with understanding how the minting process in 2003 worked, because billions of nickels were struck that year with high-speed presses designed to produce uniform and flawless coins. Yet perfection is nearly impossible when you are striking coins at such massive scales, and so even the tiniest mechanical or human error can result in a coin unlike any other, and that uniqueness is what collectors prize above all else. So let's consider some of the dramatic error categories that apply to the 2003 P nickel, beginning with double die errors where, during the creation of the die itself, the hub shifts between impressions, leaving doubling on the final coin, and such doubling could show up in Jefferson's profile with a doubled eye, nose, or mouth, in the word liberty, in the motto "I in God we trust," or even in the date 2003 itself. And the more dramatic and visible the doubling, the more collectors fight for it at auction because it is both rare and striking. And then we can look at off-center strikes where the blank planchet is not seated correctly under the dies when struck, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing and part of the raw blank surface is exposed. And the most valuable off-center coins are those where a large portion of the design is missing but the date and mint mark remain fully visible, proving its identity. And imagine a 2003 P nickel struck 70% off-center yet still showing the 2003 date and the P mint mark. Such a coin could easily fetch extraordinary sums. And then we must discuss broad strikes and partial collar errors, where the collar that normally contains the strike fails to hold the planchet fully, allowing the coin to spread out wider and thinner with unusual edges that make it instantly identifiable as an error. And in pristine condition, such coins command premium values. And then there are wrong planchet errors, which are among the most dramatic and valuable in the entire hobby, because sometimes the mint accidentally strikes a design on a planchet meant for another denomination. And in the case of the 2003 P nickel, imagine one being struck on a dime planchet so that it comes out smaller, lighter, and missing parts of the design around the rim, or one struck on a foreign planchet that happened to be in the wrong hopper at the time, or even struck on a cent planchet which would make the coin copper in color instead of its usual cupronickel silver appearance. And these wrong planchet strikes are some of the rarest of the rare, often considered holy grails by error specialists. And then we must also talk about multiple strikes where a planchet is struck more than once, either off-center, rotated, or both, creating overlapping designs that are bizarre, mesmerizing, and highly collectible. And a multiple struck 2003 P nickel in mint state condition could easily reach into the 6 or 7 figure range, especially if it combines other error characteristics. And another fascinating possibility are die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring ghost-like images from one side to the other, so that Jefferson's face might show faint outlines of Monticello, or the reverse might show parts of Jefferson's profile. And clash die nickels are particularly desirable when the clash marks are bold and dramatic. And then we cannot overlook struck through errors where foreign material like grease, fabric, wire, or even a piece of another coin gets between the die and the planchet, leaving unusual depressions or missing design details that make each coin completely unique. And dramatic struck through errors on 2003 P nickels would excite collectors and push values to extreme levels. And let's not forget repunched mint marks, which can sometimes occur when the mint mark P is punched more than once in slightly different positions, creating a doubled or tripled mint mark that error hunters love to collect. And while such repunched mint marks are more common in earlier eras, rare examples still occur on modern coins and add significant value. And all of these error types are important to understand because they represent the possibilities that turn an ordinary 2003 P nickel into a multi-million-dollar rarity. But the story does not end with just the error type, because condition is everything in the world of coin collecting. And while circulated examples of error coins may sell for impressive amounts, it is the uncirculated, mint state, full luster examples graded by professional services like PCGS and NGC that achieve record-breaking prices, and wealthy collectors will battle each other at auction to secure the best of the best because they know these coins are irreplaceable. And when you combine dramatic errors with flawless condition, you have the recipe for coins that can reach valuations like $3 million. And that is exactly what has happened with some of the rarest 2003p nickels discovered. And part of what makes this story so exciting is that these coins are not locked away in museums or beyond the reach of ordinary people. They are still out there, waiting to be discovered in rolls from banks, in change received at a store, or in old collections sitting forgotten in drawers. And the thrill of the hunt is what fuels the passion of collectors, because anyone could stumble upon a coin that changes their life forever. And stories of people finding rare error nickels and pennies worth tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars have already inspired countless others to start searching. And when an ultra rarity like the 2003p 5-cent coin with the right error combination comes up for sale, the numismatic world pays attention, headlines are made, and history is written. And this is why collectors never underestimate even the most modern coins, because the potential for error is always present. And when it happens, it creates something extraordinary. And so the tale of the 2003p nickel worth $3 million is not just about one coin, but about the broader truth that every coin has a story, that mistakes at the mint can become treasures of history, and that the smallest details can make the biggest difference. And the legacy of this coin will continue to inspire collectors, hunters, and dreamers who know that the next multi-million-dollar discovery could be hiding in the very next handful of change they examine, reminding us all that sometimes the greatest treasures are not buried deep underground but jingling right in our pockets, waiting to be recognized for the rare marvels they truly are.